be telling you how to make gingerbread cookies and the icing for them. And the stuff you'll need is some parchment paper, clear plastic wrap, oven mittens, a cooling rack, and a cookie pan. Then you'll also need measuring cups in different sizes. I'm not really sure if we need the wooden spoon, but I brought it anyway. A whisk for the icing, a cup to measure liquid substances, a blender, a medium bowl for the actual cookie dough, and a smaller bowl for the icing, teaspoon and tablespoon measurement, a rolling pin, a spatula thing, and some cookie cutters. And here we have our musical note, stocking, star, our Christmas tree, and their clover. And we also have a cutting board. Now the ingredients you'll need is some imperial butter. It doesn't have to be imperial. It can just be like butter, but we use margarine because it's a little bit lower cholesterol than butter. We also you'll need instant butterscotch pudding. It makes up for the molasses. And eggs. Here we have about medium eggs, some ground ginger, baking soda, ground cinnamon, golden brown sugar, all-purpose flour, powdered sugar, and lemon juice. The first thing you need to do is to cream together the dry butterscotch pudding, which we cut open, is this. You need to cream it into the bowl. Make sure all the mix gets out of the bag first. And the second thing you need to cream together is the brown sugar, and you need to pack the brown sugar. So what you do is you get the cup of brown sugar, and you can get a knife or something to help, like, use the dull side of the knife, the top part, to help even it off. You can't really see here, but like that. And then to pack it, you just bring it to the top of the bag, and you press your palm down on it until it's nice and packed down. Like that. And the third thing you need to cream together is a half a cup of butter, which, as you can see, this has the measurements on it, and this whole bar is actually 1/2 cup. And it helps to heat it up first so it's creamy, because some mixers, like my really old one here, have trouble mixing rather dense stuff like this. So what we're going to do is heat it up. Okay, this is the butter we so-called melted. This is what you don't want to do. You're not supposed to melt it this much. Just melt it so it's a bit creamy. We melted it for 20 seconds and it turned out, actually 18, and it turned out like this. So you might want to try doing smaller amounts of time and seeing where it comes. So, ow, hot. So you just pour this in. Ew. And see, these are all our ingredients put in together. Why don't you try setting, if your mixer has options like these, it might help to like blend cookie ingredients on low, which is the 2 option here. And we're going to turn the camera off because this blender makes a lot of noise, and yeah. This is what it looked like after we mixed the brown sugar, the butter, and the gelatin pudding mixed together. And personally, I think it looks pretty disgusting, but this is what it's supposed to look like. Yeah, as you can see, it already has that kind of gingerbread cookie color, which is kind of the natural color for gingerbread cookies. So the next ingredient you need to mix in is the egg. And what you do to, I'm going to try and move slow so you can see, but cracking it will be a little fast. What you need to do if you don't know how to break an egg, which is cracking it open, what you do is, first what you actually should do is you get another bowl, kind of like the icing bowl I have here. Let me dump all that stuff out. And then you crack it into another bowl. That way if the egg's rotten or contaminated, you don't contaminate the actual mixture. So what you do is you just take it, hit it against the rim of the bowl quickly. Oops, I need to hit mine more. And then you kind of get your fingers and crack it apart. And also, what you can do the egg, if you have a garbage disposal, you can either throw it in the trash, or you can use the garbage disposal to grind it up. And what you do, you look at the egg and make sure there's no eggshells in there, because you don't want to bake the eggshell. It doesn't actually do anything like causes a mix to go bad. It's just that I don't think you want to bite into a cookie and find an eggshell. So we're going to mix that in also. And this is when we turn the camera off because it's loud again. Okay, the next ingredients you're going to need to add is the 1.5 cup of all-purpose flour, the cinnamon, the ground ginger, and the baking soda. And on my teaspoon measure, I have it set to 1/2 a teaspoon. 1 teaspoon, 1/2. And I'm going to scoop it out. Make sure it's even. And I'm going to use the back of my knife again. And just set that aside. And the next thing we need is, let me check the directions. We need 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in this because I only have 1 teaspoon measure. And I might as well put the flour. I'm only going to put in half the flour first, because if you put in too much flour at once, it gets too thick and it's hard to stir, especially on old blenders like these. So next I need 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon. I have my cinnamon here. And I'm gonna kind of try and level it off at an angle because this has a small rim. Gonna put the cinnamon in. And then it calls for 1.5 teaspoon ground ginger. So I'm just gonna try and tap the cinnamon out and get some of the ground ginger. And trying to hold it at an angle so because if you go in vertically, it's going to be hard to get the full thing. But if you go in at an angle, it's easier. Then so this is my 1 teaspoon. And then for my 1/2 teaspoon, I'm going to make it a 1/2 teaspoon again. And since this is a smaller amount, I don't need to tip it horizontally anymore. I'm going to put my 1/2 in. And what you need to do with the second cup of flour is you add that in as you're mixing it once the 1/2 flour is already pretty well mixed in, because as I said, if it gets too thick, it can ruin the blender. So we're going to start blending again. And since you're blending in flour now, you might want to set it a little higher, like the 5 or 6, which is prepared cake mixes. And now we're going to blend. Okay, since our blender is completely bent out of shape, we're going to use the wooden spoon, hooray, to mix the dough. And it's not mixing very well. So if the spoon won't mix very well, it's because we don't even have all the flour in yet. And I think I'm actually going to have to resort, or we're going to have to resort, since my partner here, who doesn't want to talk, is helping me. But we're probably going to have to use our hands. Okay, next we have to cool the dough for about an hour. So what you need to do is get a good sized clear plastic wrap, or any plastic wrap will do. And mine sticks to itself when you... So what we're going to do is you spread it out over the surface, any surface like a countertop or a cutting board. And we just washed our cutting board, so the outside is pretty wet. And then we take our dough, which after mashing it with my hands looks like this. And by the way, if you mix it with your hands, it gets really messy. So there you go. You put the dough like that. Then you kind of wrap it like a present. You take one side over, you flatten it out a bit. Then you take the other side, put it over, flatten it a bit. Take this side, fold it up and flatten it. Then this side and flatten it. And then you have your dough. Next little package. We're going to bring it over here to the fridge. Going to set it right here in the door. Close the fridge. Don't put it in the freezer because then you're going to freeze the ingredients and you're going to have to wait for it to thaw. Before you cut the cookies, what you need to do is make sure you have a surface to put them on ready. So I'm going to take my parchment paper, which is supposed to keep the cookies from sticking to the tray I'm cooking them on. I'm going to, my box has the razors already underneath, so all I have to do is pull down on it and set it. And see, this is too long, so I'm going to need to use a pair of scissors, which I need them. So you don't want the paper to overlap the pan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the scissors. I'm going to cut off the excess paper. I'm just going to do the same thing I did with the end. Kind of try and run my scissors along it. Except now it's a bit wrinkly, so if I try and run my scissors along it, it's going to crumple the paper. And now that we have our surface ready, now that the dough is done cooling, you are going to roll it out and cut it. And since we're going to roll it out, to keep it from sticking to whatever surface you're kind of rolling it on, you use some flour. And you take the flour, you sprinkle it over the surface, and you kind of just spread it out. And then you take your rolling pin, and you flour your rolling pin. And I'm not going to use all the dough, so I'm going to use maybe 1/3 of the dough. About that much. Karate chopping. And flour the dough a little bit. And kind of knead it with your fingers so it's a bit flat. And then we get the cutters. Which one over here? My floured rolling pin, and you kind of just push out till it's not too thick, about 1/8 of an inch thick or 1/4. I'm not really sure. Oops. Yeah, see, it started sticking to the pin. That means you have to flour it a bit more. And you're just trying to roll it out in all directions so you have a good amount of room to use the cookie cutters. Okay, so that's a good amount. So first, I'm going to use my musical note, and I'm going to put one of the edges as close to the edge of the dough as possible, so I have enough room for the other cutters. I'm going to push down, and then I'm going to move it. Oh, what I forgot to do actually is to flour the cutters so they don't stick to the dough and carry it up when you lift it. So now I'm going to do that with my 4-leaf clover. I'm going to flour it quickly. Like that. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to, it won't fit there, so just find a place your cutter will fit. I'm push down. This one's a bit hard. And then this one, if you can't, it's not see-through like this, leave it there and just remove the dough around it, then lift it up. Okay, and let me see. No, none of my other ones will fit. So now I'm gonna take the dough, remove it from around the cutters. And here's some of the dough stuck in the small edges, which is okay. I'll remove that later. And I have a knife, and I'm going to use this to bring it off of the cutting board. The paper is very slippery, as you can see. And I'm going to take my whatever I have to lift my cookie off of the board, and I'm going to place it on the cookie sheet. And since I already cut my clover, but some of the dough is sticking, I'm going to try and get the dough from sticking to my cookie cutter by removing it. And okay, I stretched the clover out a bit too much, but that's okay. You just take it, crumple it back up with the excess dough, and you roll it out again. And just keep repeating till you run out of dough to cut the cookies with. These are what the cookies will look like while they're baking. Right now we have 4 minutes to go when we set it for 10 minutes. So this is during their baking process. Okay, now that you've finished placing your cookies onto your paper and your pan, you just put them in the oven. Set a timer for 10 minutes and make sure it's on bake 350 degrees. Set your timer for 10 minutes, and when the timer goes off, I'll show you what to do to make sure they're cooked. Okay, now that your cookies have done baking, be sure to wear oven mittens so you don't burn yourself, and take them out of the oven. And as you can see, you can already see they're kind of done. I'm going to take them off the tray so I don't burn my other the cooling rack. And what you do is you take the pan and you put it on the stove to let it cool. And this one's already cool, so I'm going to leave this one over here. And to make sure they're done, you take a toothpick, you stick it in one of the cookies, and if it's pretty firm, you already know it's done. And when you take it out, if there's nothing on it, like no gooey dough or anything,